So a couple of months ago, you had 4 structured decks. You got a good taste of what they could probably do as well. And it was a pretty interesting way to go ahead and get a taste of what this game had to offer. But then when they go ahead and reveal the 300 cards over the next couple of weeks, we got to see just what they had in store for us. And guys, let me just say, this is exciting. I've been playing a lot of Riftbound, and let me tell you, I'm still definitely a beginner in that sense because this game is so different from other games that you have been able to play. Having the 2 battlefields out onto the board, as well as having them be their own abilities that can be activated or added to the game, adds such a different dynamic, something that we have not really been able to see in trading card games here. And that's why this game feels so refreshing. It's not like Magic the Gathering where you try to get to 20 lore. It's not like, it's not like Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you're trying to go ahead and get their 8,000 life points gone. It's not like Lorcana where you're trying to get to 20 lore. Instead, you're trying to get to 8 battlefield victory points with your 40 card deck with your commander, which is basically, having someone like your commander in Magic the Gathering outside of your deck to be summoned anytime that you are able to, as well as a legend, which is a permanent ability that your deck is able to utilize, as well as locking down the colors that you are able to use to build your deck. And guys, let me just say, this is a great feeling game, and there is some really exciting things to look forward to this. And I can't wait to see what kind of decks get brewed up, especially as we continue to grow ever closer to October when the game releases in America. So let's go ahead and see what kind of cards have been revealed so far, and then take a look at a couple of deck lists. So like I said, this is going to be a very interesting first set. And honestly, I got to say here, one of my favorite decks that I've been playing and testing so far has been Master Yi. Now, we'll go ahead and talk about his legend ability a little bit later, but Master Yi being able to come in ready and have ganking. That's one of the things that I really love about this game too, where if you know League of Legends a little bit as well, the characters that are in this game reflect a lot of their abilities that they have back in League of Legends itself, which is pretty cool to be able to see. Now, at the same time, if you're used to playing things like Legends of Runeterra, then in this case, this game's going to be feeling very different. But like Annie, for example, she's a 5-cost recycle 1, and your spells and abilities deal 1 bonus damage as well. And so she really utilizes that kind of stuff. And then she has a lot of on-theme abilities as well. Firestorm, Incinerate, and things of that sorts. Now, there's also different versions of these cards that you're able to see as well. For example, Annie Stubborn is a purple card instead of what you see as her red card up top. And when you go ahead and play her, you can return a spell card from your trash to your hand. So a good little fetch right there that can then be utilized with this Annie as well. And so just really cool stuff. Now, this Lux is pretty awesome as well. I mean, it's a 6-cost that has a 5 might. And then when you go ahead and play that spell that costs 5 or more, give me +3 this turn. So going up to 8 is actually a pretty great ability to be able to utilize. Now, the thing that I really love about this is that the out-of-deck ability that your legends are able to perform. So for example, with Lux, you're going to have the ability to, anytime you play something with 5 or more that is a spell, you are able to draw a card. So you can really fill up your hand fast, maintain that hand size, and then go ahead and just devastate your opponent while you also build up your own board. Now, the downside with that, of course, is that trying to pay for all of the lore can be, or all of the mana from the runes in that case, playing 3 different games at once, can be a little bit difficult to go ahead and try to utilize, especially with the recycling mechanic, which means you take one of the runes that you have on your board and put it onto the bottom of your rune deck, which adds a whole different dynamic as well. And then also one of the nicest parts about this game, which I really love, is that you get 2 guaranteed runes a turn from your rune deck to a max of 12, and that is it. You don't have to worry about lands in your hand. You don't have to worry about using your characters as ink like in Lorcana or things like that. You're just able to go ahead and play these cards as you see fit. And it actually adds a really good balance because, you might have a stronger champion or a stronger unit in general, but you have to recycle 1, maybe even 2, and in some cases that we're going to see even 3 or 4 in this case, to be able to get a really good ability for the game. Now, again, one of my favorite characters in this game, champion here right now, Master Yi, really great art as well. I got to say this as well. This team has done such a great job with the artwork. And I got to say, having all of the full art promos that they have and things of that nature makes me really excited about this game. That's one of the things that, we don't necessarily have in Lorcana, for example, where all we have are what's called enchanteds, which is the only form of full art, cards that we have. But here, they're almost making that a lot more normalized in this game. And I mean, I just got to say, I absolutely love how they're able to do that. Now, Master Yi is really good because he has ganking, which is very fitting of his character, being a jungler in League of Legends. And then he's able to enter ready, so you can automatically utilize him. Now, when you do go ahead and take a battlefield, Master Yi's legend ability also says that while you are defending, if you are defending alone, then you get +2 might. And so there's some really cool stuff that you can go ahead and do with that as well. Now, with that, I got to say, this Lux is also pretty interesting as well. And this is kind of the bread and butter that makes this Lux deck really kind of thrive a lot, because you can go ahead and play her for 4, and then you can go ahead and tap her and you add 2 to cast spells. And so that makes a lot of your 4-cost spells and things of that nature a lot cheaper. Now, with that as well, I got to say, this Garen's going to be really interesting to see how it is utilized. Is it going to be going more towards the Victor deck, which utilizes a lot of unit tokens to go ahead and flood the board, and then you attack right in? Garen, on the other hand, is going to be able to add +1 to all of those. And then there's even battlefields that when you attack or even defend with those, you are going to be able to then add +1 attack depending on where there was. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that's utilized. And again, this is Recruit the Vanguard to play 4. 1 might recruits, which is really cool. And then, some other stuff. And again, we get kind of our first look at Legend. And with Legends, it's going to be really interesting to see. Now, at the same time with Tibbers, I don't necessarily know if we're going to be seeing, Tibbers or even like an Annie deck, in the tier 1 status. Of course, time will tell with that. There's a lot of game left to be played. But Tibbers at the same time being an 8 cost and a 2 recycle to go ahead and deal 3 damage to all units at a battlefield. So a board wipe. And then it's also a 7 might, which is pretty dang good. And I mean, rightfully so. That is a very expensive card there to be able to use. But still, that's expensive and just so difficult to be able to do. Now, Annie's going to be really interesting too, because at the end of your turn, you're able to ready 2 runes, which means that on your opponent's turns, you can play actions and reactions as you see fit, which would make a really big difference here. Now, with that being said, Lady of Luminosity. This is the one where I told you where it says, when you play a spell that costs 5 or more, draw 1. Now, it's going to be really cool to see if they have basically also just foil cards of all of these. I mean, having a foil legend card would be a really cool add-on to this game. Again, I'm not necessarily sure if they are going to be doing that. And so we'll see how it ends up going. And so, gosh, it's just going to be so fun. Then Garen also is a decent ability. I don't necessarily know if this is going to be a tier 1 thing. Now with Garen, I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a tier 1, just mainly due to the fact that when you conquer, if you have 4+ units at that battlefield, you get to draw 2. Now, of course, that will go really well with the tokens that you're going to be able to summon and things like that, but still, it's going to be a little bit difficult to go ahead and, get out there as well. And so, tough call. Now, again, this is going to be really interesting. This card goes really good with the Jinx decks, for example, because if you go ahead and discard it, then you can go ahead and play him for a red, which is really good to be able to see. Still, though, I don't know. And that's going to be one of the hardest things here, is that the Jinx deck is going to be interesting to see how it is utilized, because even though Jinx is one of the more favorite characters of League of Legends in general, especially after the show releasing as well, I mean, that just jumped everything up in popularity as well. It's going to be really interesting to see how that's going to go. So with that, there's going to be a lot of spells. Now, one thing that I really do like about this is that there's a lot of different decks to go ahead and utilize these cards with legend abilities and things of that nature. So, for example, Kaisa does a really good job to be able to play this card And then Kaisa's ability as well is really interesting because you can go ahead then, and when you take the battlefield with Kaisa, you can play a action or spell, a spell for free from the trash, equal to the amount of points that you have. So really cool to be able to utilize here. And I mean, I gotta say again, great job on the artwork here. Blind Fury, interesting. 4 with 2 recycle, which is a little bit expensive, but each opponent reveals the top card of their main deck. Choose one and play it, ignoring its cost, then recycle the rest. So, I mean, that can be a really fun card to, kind of roll the dice and see what you're able to do. You might be able to get some really cool stuff from your opponent. Again, really great artwork here. Thunder Song here. When you play me, opponents can't play cards this turn as well. So, I mean, that's a great way to shut people down from, potentially playing a bunch of spells to control things, and that's even going to be something to stop, for example, hidden cards in the game, because when you go ahead and take a battlefield, you can recycle a rune of any color to go ahead and play a card face down and hidden. Then when your opponent goes ahead and attacks in, you can choose whether or not to activate that hidden card. If you choose so, then you're of course going to activate the ability. And some of those, like, for example, Hidden Blade, can go ahead and kill a unit, and that unit's controller draws 2 cards. So really interesting to see, because that can really slow down something like a Teemo deck, for example, which thrives on hidden cards. Really good combination there. And now this was also a really interesting one, because it can get pretty dang big depending at what point in the game you're at, because again, its might is increased by the points that you have. So, I mean, if you have 6, 7, 8 points, then you're going to be finding yourself at possibly Draven being at an 11 as a 5 cost. Now, of course, at the beginning of the game, not necessarily anything to write home about, but, that's okay. But if you're able to get him late game, he is going to be so difficult to go ahead and take down. Now, one thing that I love, too, as well, is that this game is already releasing alternate art of their champion units, which is really fun to be able to see, because, like in League of Legends, you do see that on a pretty regular basis. And so having something like this is so cool to be able to see how that is going to be used. And I mean, it's going to make it, of course, a little bit rare. It's going to be an alt art kind of thing, but still, I mean, I can only imagine how this is going to look. It's going to be so cool to have these cards in person. Now, I haven't necessarily seen a whole lot of Vayne going ahead and being played in this, in this meta just yet. Of course, the meta is still young. Like I said, we literally just finished reveal season. But still, having Assault +3, making it a 5 might at a 4 cost 1 recycle. Because what this says is, if an opponent controls a battlefield, I enter ready. And when I conquer, you may pay 1 to return me to my owner's hand. So you can go ahead and conquer and then just dash it back into your hand and keep it safe to fight another day. So really interesting abilities right there. Vi, I gotta say, is one of my favorites, just because it works so well, especially towards, again, the late game, unless you're, of course, maybe playing the Jinx deck, because you can go ahead and continually activate her ability until you have no cards to pay the cost with. And so if you have 10 cards in your trash, you are able to, recycle 10 cards, gain 10 might to be able to go ahead and get up to 13, which is just absolutely insane. Love that. Now, Immortal Phoenix was one of my favorite reveals of reveal season here as well, because it comes in again with Assault +2. But then when you go ahead and kill a unit with a spell, you can pay 1 red to play me from your trash. And so, again, you were seeing things with like Kaisa, maybe even a little bit with Jinx, for example, of this card being utilized. Because, again, if you kill a unit with a spell, you're just able to play it for extremely cheap, and getting that utilized. And if you even have 3 in there, so one of the things is like discarding it to your trash, killing something with a spell, and then automatically playing it back out. Now, Kaisa is going to be interesting, and again, we're going to be looking at this alt art, because, I mean, come on, it's awesome. And I mean, Kaisa is just really good, because again, it can come in with Accelerate, a little bit of a cheap card, but then when you go ahead and conquer, you get to draw 1. So, I mean, you can play this on turn 2. Maybe on turn 3, if you have the battlefield that adds a rune to the start of your game, and then you can go ahead and enter it in as accelerated, and then automatically take over a battlefield and draw 1. Now, Volibear is going to be an interesting one as well. He is a very high cost, and that's why the Auroras is going to be something that maybe utilizes him best. But there is already a lot of ramp that is able to be utilized here as well because, I mean, gosh, he has Deflect 2. So if you go ahead and are trying to destroy him, you have to deal first off 9 damage of might to him. And then on top of that, in order to even just target him, you have to pay 2 runes of any color, luckily, to be able to choose him with a spell or ability. Like, come on, he's already out of 9. Then, even when he attacks in, you're going to be able to deal 5 damage split among any number of enemy units here. You can really just go ahead and clear a big threat out onto the board, and then go ahead and finish it off with any 9 might of yours that you may have after that. Just, I mean, really good card to be able to have. Now, green is going to be interesting, and I got to say, one of my favorite cards right here, Charm. I absolutely love this card, especially with Master Yi, because you have the ability to defend. And then what you do is you go ahead and play Charm to select something that you might not necessarily ever be able to beat. And you move it to your battlefield. Master Yi then adds +2 to the defender, which is you in that case. And then you can usually overcome that opponent. And a lot of times, they won't necessarily see this coming. And you're going to be able to then, not have to necessarily worry about a lot of the counters that they might have. With that, too, I mean, there's just a lot of really cool cards, a lot of draw. Green is probably one of the more stronger colors here, just by what it's able to do. I mean, you have a counter, which can counter a spell that costs no more than 4 and no more than a recycle. And so that's going to be really interesting to see as well. Now, keep in mind, though, that's going to be where Magic the Gathering and this kind of differ a little bit because your creature spells or everything is not your spell book like in Magic the Gathering. It is literally just spells. And champions and units are completely separate. They're not being necessarily summoned from your spell book, you know? And so really interesting to be able to see here. Now, Rune Prison is going to be also interesting to see because being able to stun a unit and allowing it to not steal combat damage can be pretty dang good. Now, again, you still have to equal above its might, but it's not going to necessarily have to be able to deal damage back to you and you lose units in that case. So really strong card. Now, one of my favorite cards here, actually 2 of mine right there, is going to be Stalwart Poro. First off, epic art. If they had a full art of that, I would be in. Now, with that being said, too, the Shield +1, again, with Master Yi, that's the main deck I've been playing. I've been playing Victor, Master Yi, and Set are the 3 main legends that I have been testing a lot of. And Stalwart Poro is just so good. Even just having the Shield +1, that 3, especially early game, is such a great card to be able to have because it can be really difficult to get around that. And again, Master Yi will go ahead and add 2 more to that. So a 2 cost for 5 defending a battlefield. A lot of the times people are just going to go ahead and leave him alone. And you're just going to be able to recur that battlefield point at the start of every upkeep each time. And man, that just feels really good. Now, same thing here with Wielder of the Water. Great card because whenever he's attacking or defending alone, he has +2, which means he can be a 4 when going ahead and attacking in. And then just, I mean, you can utilize them. There's a lot of other green cards that beef them up even higher in that case that you can go ahead and utilize there as well. Great card for the early game, especially going second. If you start with this, you're going to be able to take a battlefield, potentially hold it for a turn or 2, potentially again, like I said, and see how it goes. Now, Ari here, I was necessarily a little worried about Ari because we had the Ari Legend be revealed at the same time as this Ari was revealed. And a lot of us were a little bit worried in the community just because we didn't necessarily see how this would be utilized. And it's like, why would you put this card outside of your deck as your champion with your legend in this case when you're not going to necessarily be able to utilize it all that well? But at the same time, they did release a blue Ari as well. And with a lot of the other cards that they were able to reveal with that, you were able to see that, you know, Ari now has a chance to be able to get out there, stay on a battlefield, and then potentially survive for a while and get things going. Now, Last Stand, of course, is one of my also favorite cards here too. Not necessarily for the ability, but I just love the artwork in general. Now, it is an action, and then you can double a friendly unit's might this turn and you give it temporary, which means it's going to die before the start of your upkeep. So if that's the only thing you're going to necessarily be attacking in with, you might not be able to gain the point for holding the battlefield at the start of your turn, but still, great card. And if you attack with 2 and then double one of them, woo, that's going to be really awesome. Now, Sona is going to be one of my favorite cards as well. Just really good because what you can do is really take over a battlefield and then go in with Sona and end your turn at that point. And then Sona is going to be able to ready 4 friendly runes at the end of your turn. Cool. So then you can go ahead and play counters or buffs or things like that during your opponent's turn and better protect your battlefield. Now, that is going to be a little bit tough against maybe a Lux deck or a Jinx deck or things like that. But regardless, you're at least going to be able to ready your 4 runes at least once and, hopefully be able to hold a battlefield, which could give you a really big advantage going into the next turn and for the rest of the game. And so just a really great card all in all, and really fun to be able to see. Now, this is going to be interesting. I'm not necessarily huge on any of these cards. Again, the Leona alt arts, or full art and alt art, are so good. Lee Sen's alt art is so dang good. I want that card just to have it more than anything too. Now, Mystic Reversal, 4 cost 3 recycle, and you can play it as a reaction because you can play at any time, even before spells and abilities resolve. And you gain control of a spell, and you may make new choices for it. Woo! And let me tell you, we saw up above too, with the Lux deck, there's some really big stuff that can be utilized, like the Final Spark, dealing 8 to a unit. You can say, hey, you know what? Sorry, but your unit's actually getting destroyed. And that is 1,000% worth the cost in that case. Now, at the same time, though, it's going to be really interesting to see what cards make the main deck and which ones go into a side deck. We haven't necessarily had side decks be revealed yet for this game, but just with how things are kind of shaping up, it makes sense that this would potentially be, something that will be happening sooner rather than later, especially with your 40-card decks being able to be used. Now, they have hinted, of course, that there are going to be side decks. They just haven't said when. And so we're going to wait and see. It'll be interesting. Still keeping an eye out for that. Now, this guy's just really fun as well. Really good. He's able to be assigned damage first, which can really save a unit as well. And then when you play him, you draw 1. So, for 3, getting a body on the field and then being able to replace himself is just such a good card as well with that. Now, otherwise, there's not necessarily a whole lot here that I was really a huge fan of. Ravenbloom Student is good because if you have a lot of spells and abilities, you can really pump this up. Most, though, that I've seen this get pumped up has been 2. So it's being a 4 for a 2 cost, which is still pretty dang good. Now, Dr. Mundo, whoo, he's fun. Now, he's expensive, but he's really fun because at the start of your beginning phase, recycle 3 from your trash. And, he is able to have his might increase by the number of cards in your trash. And there has been some dang big Dr. Mundos that I've had to go against on Pixelborn with testing this game. And he is a tough guy to deal with. And so if you get a lot of cards into your discard or into your trash, woo, it's good. Now, Echo is a really interesting one as well. You can pay him for his accelerate cost. Then he can go in and just, take over a battlefield or even clear it out for you to be able to take it over later in the turn. Because as soon as he goes away, you're able to recycle him and ready all of your runes, which is pretty dang good. And so really excited to see how that's going to be utilized further as well. Now, again, Kaisa Altart, really cool here. And this is the card that we talked about earlier in the video. When I conquer, you may play a spell from your trash with energy cost less than your points, without paying the energy cost, and then recycle it. And so really fun to be able to do. You need to still pay the power cost, which is the recycle. And so if you have 6 victory points, and you can go ahead and play like Progress Day for free, be able to draw 4 cards off of that if it's in your discard when Kaisa conquers. And at 6, that's a pretty good card. Now, there was a tournament that I was watching today. It was a 64-player tournament. Really cool to be able to see, all online on Tabletop Simulator. This was a very interesting card that the person top decks against Max. And because, he was able to put it in accelerated with that as well. and then he was able to give a unit -3 this turn to a minimum of 1, and just was able to take a battlefield, and that was enough to go ahead and take over, for the win there. Really fun card to be able to see. It'll be interesting to see if this does make its way into the meta a little bit more, but time will tell. And so, with that being said, there's other really cool cards. Like, don't get me wrong, Time Warp, really cool card to be able to see. Do I really think that it's going to be something that is going to be utilized? Maybe not, because Time Warp, I don't know. Now, of course, you still could go ahead and play, your cards out on the field. You can play the first Echo with Accelerate, maybe another card on top of that. Then you can go ahead and attack him with Echo. He dies. Then everything gets readied up with the runes. You then play this, recycle everything, because it's 4-cost recycle, and then you're able to take a second turn, which means you're still going to be able to reveal two runes before your turn. But still. Now, this is a devastating card with the Lux deck. I mean, because there's a lot of times it just says exhaust all friendly units and then deal 12 damage to all units at battlefield. So it's kind of a board wipe, but not really, because anything that's in your base is going to be able to survive. But this has been devastating, and it's made me keep in mind a strategy where I need to actually keep a couple of units back into my base to prepare for this card, because, yeah, sometimes your opponent is only going to literally have one unit on the battle or on their base. They just have to go ahead and exert that kind of thing or tap that, and then they are able to deal 12 damage to everything at the battlefield, and that can be devastating. If you have Volley Bear, things of that nature, it's not going to necessarily have to have two runes that you need to select as well to target Volley Bear, because it is a board wipe. It's not necessarily targeting. So really great card. One of the best cards in the Lux deck as well. Now, Challenge, of course, one of my favorite cards here, just because it is such a great board control. If you see something in the backfield in someone's base, if you see a Victor in the back of their base, you just go ahead and play Challenge, and you can go ahead and choose that enemy unit that you want to get rid of. You're going to win the fight. Cool. That's awesome. Nothing too serious there, and you can take care of some really big threats. So otherwise, not necessarily a whole lot here that I really care for. Some ramp here, but there's not been necessarily a whole ton that I am like, I love this card. Now, this card, though, I love this card. Just because it has a 7 cost, you do have to still recycle 2. But with a Volley Bear deck, this can be really good because it's an 8 might. And then when you attack, you deal 3 damage to all enemy units here. Which, I mean, gosh, if you go ahead and are going against, for example, a Victor deck, they have a lot of 1-cost unit tokens out onto the battlefield. You can go ahead and then move him in to a battlefield and deal 3 damage to everything. Then even on top of that, then your might attack goes in, and you're able to divvy out 8 damage as you see fit to the rest of the units in that battlefield. So just, gosh, really good card right there. Now, I gotta say, probably a little bit more of my favorite card above Master Yi here. Carnivorous Snapvine, one of the best cards, if not probably the best card in this set, just by what it is able to do. Aurora is still probably a little bit better, but this is still a dang good card because, gosh, you are able to just take out something that you need to, that has 5 or less might, and you're fine. And so with that being said, you're going to be able to, choose an enemy unit at a battlefield, so it has to be at a battlefield, and you just go ahead and they both attack each other. Cool. I'm all for that. Now, again, one of my favorite cards here, Quiana. I think I say that right. And then when you go ahead and conquer, draw 1 or channel 1 rune exhausted. Then there also is a battlefield that when you are there on the upkeep, you get to activate the conquer abilities again. So you could either exhaust another rune, or you could go ahead and draw another card. Both are very good here to be able to do. Now, again, such a great card here. At the end of your turn, you reveal a card from the top of your main deck until you reveal a unit. Play it, ignoring its cost, and recycle the rest. And when this card got revealed, Max ran a tournament, and there was a couple of people that did just play Set and Dazzling Aurora decks, which is really interesting, or Volley Bear with this as well, because you just have a lot of ramp that you're able to utilize with orange. And then on top of that, you just race to Dazzling Aurora, and then you can go ahead and get stuff moving with that. Now, at the same time, things to keep in mind with this is that Dazzling Aurora is not going to be anything all that special in the sense of as soon as there's probably side decks that are utilized, this deck might fall to the wayside because there are a lot of cards that do destroy gears in this case, which are, essentially enchanteds if you know Magic the Gathering. But really interesting card, really good card. Deathroom Predator was one of my favorites. He's really good because you can play him directly onto an occupied battlefield and just absolutely clear it. But the 8 cost is sometimes really difficult to get to. Let's see. I think there's not too much more that we will be going over here. But still, I just really want to scroll. And, I am just so excited to be able to see this. Now, there's a Teemo deck that's been going around. And Teemo's ability, when you go ahead and play in the blue Teemo, when you are attacking, you get to reveal cards, 5 cards, and then if you reveal anything with hidden, you'll be able to deal that much damage as cards that have hidden to a unit at the battlefield that is being attacked. Now, Nocturne, on the other hand, is really good as well because he goes hand in hand with that Teemo, because when you look at the top cards from your deck, you will be able to play him for free if you just see him. Now, of course, you can't go ahead and draw from that kind of thing, but still really good. Now, this guy might be really interesting. Kind of a dead card in the beginning, but can get really cheap later. You go ahead and have like 9 cards in. Heck, even if you have 10 cards, you don't necessarily have to get rid of those cards in your trash. You could go ahead and recycle one and get a 6 cost out at the end game, which is really, really dang cool. Twisted Fate is a really cool one. I don't necessarily know how much he's going to be utilized, but still, when I attack, reveal the top rune of your rune deck, then recycle it and do one of the following based on its domain. You can deal 2, you can draw 1, or you can stun an enemy unit. So, just a really good card. Fun to see what you're going to be able to do with that. And so, yeah. Gotta love all the Poros, I gotta say. Also, Hidden Blade is probably one of my favorite cards. Not just for being able to take out something that's really dangerous attacking your battlefield that you're holding, but if you also want to go ahead and get rid of your unit, then you can go ahead and kill it instead. You'll give your opponent a point, but then you're able to draw 2 cards. And card draw is king. And so you'll be able to have potentially better answers going down in the following turns, and just really cool stuff to be able to see with that. And so all in all, though, guys, this is fun. I could spend a lot just talking about deck lists and things of that nature. We're going to make a different list or a different video talking about deck lists, so be on the lookout for that because that's going to be out this following week as well. I really hope that Miss Fortune is able to do something with this as well because it has ganking and then also even bullet time. You can just go ahead and really pay a lot, go ahead and deal a lot of damage. Showstopper is really cool too. Buff a friendly unit in your base and then move them to a battlefield for a 1-cost recycle 1. I love that. Now, battlefields are pretty cool. First off, love the artwork. Love that they also put it on both sides so both opponents, or both you and your opponent, can read it. That's going to be really helpful. We have a lot of battlefields that they've been able to have as well, which is so cool to be able to see. All the different utilization. This is what I love about this game because it can add so much difference depending on the deck that you want to play. You can utilize one of the battlefields to your advantage. So Master Yi, for example, you can go ahead and play this card for Fortified Position and give something +2 shield. So Master Yi activates, gives him +2. Then Fortified Position gives you +2. And if you have the Poro, that is +1. So you are adding 5 to a 2-cost 2-might unit, which is just absolutely insane. But guys, this is exciting. I am so happy to see what kind of decks are going to be built with this and what we might be able to do here. But yeah, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below what decks you are excited to be playing, who your favorite champion is, and what legend you might be playing. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. But until next time, guys, have a good one.